of stuff to look forward to. So yeah, without further ado, welcome everyone for this 100 Days of No Code workshop for this week. I'm really excited to be joined by UI Bakery, which is a no-code web application app development tool. So it's right up our street, and we're joined by Anton, Kenzia, and Artem from the UI Bakery team, who will be talking us through the product and giving us the lowdown on how we can get the most out of it. So I shall pass first to Anton, who I think is going to run through a little bit of the history and background of UI Bakery. Before then, he'll pass on to Artem, who will show you sort of under the bonnet of the tool, and then we'll probably open up for questions. So hopefully that sounds good, and yeah, take it away, Anton.
Thank you, Max. Yeah, my name is Anton, and I'm the head of the US branch for UI Bakery and for Acquia. Acquia is the company behind UI Bakery, and actually the history of Acquia is tightly coupled with the history of UI Bakery. So that's really how it came into life. So Acquia is a software development company, and we do professional services, but from the very beginning, we were focused on giving our clients more and not really starting from scratch. So from the very beginning, we worked on some tools and frameworks and tools for developers. So we tried to make our lives as the developers easier and also make the lives of other developers easier. So we started with UI kits for different technologies. Then we went on to offering some starter applications that the developers can take and start building from them. But then we wanted to take it one step further. And about a year ago, we noticed that even though we already had all of those UI kits and starter applications, we still had to repeat many of the basic things over and over again every time we started a new application for our client. And we thought that maybe we should take it a step further and provide some kind of template. And also, maybe you don't really need a developer to do all those standard things. So that's how UI Bakery came into life. And yeah, we started it as a low-code platform about a year ago. It didn't start as a full-scale low-code platform. So from the very beginning, we were focused more on the UI, UX, and front-end capabilities. So the basic idea was, what can we do for our users to be able to build modern and user-friendly front ends with minimal to no coding? And that's how it's been going since then. And we now offer UI Bakery as a product for everyone to use, but we also actively use it for our own internal needs. And we try as much as we can to do all the front end work for our customers using UI Bakery. So as they say, we eat our own dog food. So moving on, I'll highlight the main features of UI Bakery. So on the left, you can see sneak into the UI Bakery interface. You'll see it much more today during the demo. So the main features are, we allow building the application interface using drag and drop. So you just take the components, you drop them on the canvas, and that's how you get the user interface for your web application. And of course, even with that, you don't have to start from scratch. Most often you can start from one of the various templates that we offer. And even then, once again, the idea was to minimize the efforts and minimize the routine, the repetitive actions. So even when you start from the template, you don't have to add every button to it. You can add widgets, and widgets are a collection of components, and only when that is enough, you can add individual components. One outstanding feature of UI Bakery, which really differentiates us from all the competitors on the market, is Angular code generation. So we do not lock our users into UI Bakery. And if you ever come across a limitation in UI Bakery and you feel like you've outgrown it, all you have to do, you just download your Angular code and you get a regular Angular application that you can continue working on yourself or give to any developer who is acquainted with Angular. And from that point on, you don't depend on UI Bakery. Of course, we want to avoid that, but technically you can even cancel your subscription because the code you've generated is not connected to UI Bakery anymore. It's just an independent application. Another great feature which not many of our competitors offer is that we have a design system under the hood, which means that all the user interface work that you do, all the colors, styles, fonts, they're not just arbitrary, they are all connected into a beautiful system, which first makes sure that everything looks consistent. So if you use it right, it won't allow you to use colors that don't go together well or use different fonts across the application. So the system controls your UI and makes sure that everything looks beautiful and everything is consistent. But at the same time, it is customizable and it's really easy to customize. Literally, you can just choose one primary color and the system using some artificial intelligence algorithms will automatically choose all the other colors for you that go together well with your main color. So you can create applications that look absolutely different using the same design system, but each of them will be consistent. Then we also offer responsive design, which means that you can easily design interfaces that would look great on any device. And unlike some of our competitors, we offer not only mobile and desktop versions, but also versions for portrait and landscape orientation of your phone and a separate version for tablets. And it's really easy to manage in the UI Bakery interface because by default, everything looks the same on the each device, but then you can customize depending on the size screen. Like, for example, you have a huge table with a lot of columns, and then you just want it to be a little smaller once you switch from your desktop to your laptop, and maybe a little more smaller, show a bit less information when you switch from laptop to tablet, and maybe you need a completely different layout when you switch from tablet to mobile phone. So you can do all of that in UI Bakery, depending on the screen resolution. And finally, as I said, UI Bakery is not really a tool for creating the whole application from scratch right now. It's focused on the front end, so the part that's executed in the user's browser, but we do offer a convenient way for backend integration. So if you have any REST API, you can easily connect the data that it provides to your components in UI Bakery and also send the data back from UI Bakery to your API. And if you need to do some data processing on the front end, you can do that as well. So UI Bakery, even though it's a low-code tool, it does allow you write in some code if you need to process the data that you received from the API or the data that you're going to send there. So that's the main highlights. And as I said before, we put a lot of efforts into making sure that UI Bakery is easy to use. So as I already mentioned, we have a vast number of templates. In addition to that, we have widgets. We also have design themes. So you can literally switch the theme for your application with one click of a button, and it will look completely different, but still beautiful. or you can customize further if you're not satisfied with the default themes. And we do a lot to communicate with our users and to make sure that they know how to use the application and to collect feedback from them. We have regular webinars conducted by my colleague here on the call, Artem. So he covers different topics and answers users' questions there. And if you're interested in looking into UI Bakery, and we hope you are, that's a great way to start. So I just recommend you to go to the uibakery.io website and see when the next webinar is and sign up for it. It provides a lot of great information. But even after the webinar, you're not left alone in the field. We have good documentation describing all the aspects of using UI Bakery. We also have video tutorials, how-to guides, and we can even do individual training. So if even after all the rest, if you still feel unsure, all you have to do is just to sign up for an individual training, and we are ready to provide those for free. So you can connect with Artyom or other experts from UI Bakery, and they will help you with your exact needs. So getting a little bit back to the purpose of a UI Bakery, how we see the use cases, what it's best for. So first of all, it's a very valuable tool for prototyping and MVP creation. So if you're a startup or if you're working in a corporation and you just need to run some idea with your boss, you don't have to find developers to develop a POC for you or hire designers to do a prototype. You can do all of that in UI Bakery. And the best thing is that you don't have to throw that away. If your POC or prototype is approved, you can easily continue working on it and turn it into the actual front end for your future application. So that's a great tool to start. And speaking of the target audience, we believe that people who would benefit the most from using UI Bakery are startups, or as they call them now, builders, creators, people who are starting some new things, so they could leverage prototyping and MVP creation capabilities. And also, we found a very interesting niche that backend developers, or maybe people who are who have been in the IT industry for a while, but they're a little bit behind. Maybe they have been working with some older technologies, or maybe desktop applications, and they're not up to speed with all the latest technology for the web and mobile. They can easily get into that with UI Bakery because it's visual. If you get the general concepts of programming, it's even better. It helps a lot. And it allows you to create modern web and mobile applications. So here we have a huge table comparing UI Bakery to some of the competitors. So we'll obviously not go through everything right now. I'll just highlight a few major benefits. So as I mentioned before, our unique feature is that we support Code Expert. Out of the competitors that we have checked, we only found one, or well, maybe two, WaveMaker and BettyBlocks, who do allow some kind of expert. But we are probably the only one who allows exporting your code, and it's not connected to UI Bakery after that in any way. We believe we have a pretty reasonable pricing, starting from $16 a month per developer, and the number of applications that you can create is not limited. We hope it's pretty easy to use. As I mentioned, you can build responsive web applications, which will look great on any device. And we do provide integration with the API, though to be honest, probably anyone does, or everyone does these days. So just a quick look into what's coming next. So as from the very beginning, we were focused on removing any redundancy and any repetitive actions. So the logical next step for us is to introduce reusable components. So just to remind you, already have a lot of components in UI Bakery right now, and you have widgets, which are a combination of several components. But unfortunately, right now, you cannot create your own components or your own widgets, and that will be fixed pretty soon. So that's one of the major updates coming. Once you've built your component, you will be able to use it in multiple projects and maybe even share with other users. And another big step for us is integrations, because as I said, UI Bakery is mostly focused on the front end. So you have to connect it to your API, and well, you have to understand to a certain extent how it works to do that. Honestly, that's been a problem for some of our users. So we are working actively on that, and we will be offering some templates where your frontend is already integrated with many popular backends, low-code backends mostly, such as Firebase, Airtable, Google Sheets, etc. So using UI Bakery, you'll get not only the front end, but you'll actually get a fully working application. And that's it on the presentation part. So once again, I encourage everyone to go to our website, uibakery.io, where you'll be able to sign up for the application and find all the useful resources such as webinars, how-tos, video tutorials, etc. And with that, I would like to pass it over to Artem, who will actually do some live demo. Are you still here?
It's okay. Thank you, Anton. Basically, I tried to share my screen, but since you're sharing, I can't do
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I just didn't hear any feedback. So for a moment, I was afraid that, I was just talking to the wall all the time.
It's
That
okay.
would be unfortunate.
It's okay. So you're welcome, guys. My name is Artem. Basically, I'm working here at UI Bakery as a customer success manager. And today we are going to build something like you can see at the moment on your screen. This is a delivery template. It's really easy to build. You will see it by yourself. Basically, we'll start from a front end. Basically, we'll start from the interface and we'll go to the front end. And then we'll try to connect some data to make our project alive. So if it's okay, let's start. Is my screen can be seen correctly?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So basically, the first page you will see here in UI Bakery is the dashboard page, and this page contains all of the projects you created so far. So as you can see, I've been working for UI Bakery for a while. That's why there are literally a list here. So let's create a new project, and we need to set a project because without an A, it's almost impossible to create it. I don't know. Let be webinar. What's day today? Something like this, and let's create it. As Anton mentioned, you have a possibility to not just start from a blank page like we do at the lesson, but also you can use some various templates that, for example, could cover some spheres like healthcare, financial, logistics, food delivery that we are going to build today, and other templates. But for the for today's lesson, we'll use a blank template to start with. And once we've joined and created our project, here we can see some hints. I will skip them for the moment and talk about the interface of UI Bakery in details. So mostly UI Bakery consists of three main parts, but the first one is called the builder tool, and here's the builder. And by the way, in the builder tool, we can add components, simple one like cards, button, texts, and 36 more components. Also, we can use widgets. As also Anton mentioned, widgets is made of components, and basically you can also use them in case some of them could speed up your development process. The second main part of UI Bakery is called data connection. Basically here the magic works. We use some actions to get the data from different URL and APIs. We also can save this data to the storage of UI Bakery. Here we can use some navigation steps. In case you're familiar with JavaScript, you can use code step and write here pure JavaScript, and it would be executed right into UI Bakery. If someone of you have used the template with Airtable that is already integrated with Airtable, you can see that inside of this data connection part, there are a list of actions that contains code step, and the guys made magic with JavaScript. But in case you don't know JavaScript, don't be afraid. It's not needed. It's just, like, could be appreciated. And the last but not the least part here is the branding part. Basically, we can work here with the design of our application. We can switch themes here also as well. We can work with its configurations, going right down into the theme. And basically, that's all. So let's go back to the builder and talk more about the interface. So the first button we will go into check is the dashboard button. We already been there a few seconds ago. And also we can open here app settings. Inside of the app settings of the application, you can change the name of the project. You can upload image so that it would be displayed in the browser tab. You can also a little bit work with SEO settings, add some tags for better search. Also, there is a possibility to insert your custom code, and this code would be executed right in UI Bakery. Also, there is a possibility to have a hosting. Let's skip it for this time. And of course, the billing section in case you want to buy a subscription, or usually to buy a subscription. So the next button here is the structure button. Inside of the structure button, we can add a new page. We can import pages from previous projects. We can make the page to be a child of let's have an example. I'll create a new page, and I want this page to be the child of home page. Let's add it. So as you can see, we have some kind of hierarchy where the new page is nested inside of the home page. Also, you can rename a page if needed. You can duplicate it to speed up the development process. Of course, delete, search through the pages. And also here we have a component tree. Once I'm going to create a template today, I'll talk about this component tree feature in detail. And the second tab inside the structure button is the layout. Layout could be general. It means that it's the layout for the whole application, for the all pages you have, or the layout could be only for a current page. To have the custom layout settings, you need just to click here on the checkbox, and probably that's all. Also, we have here responsive feature for desktop, laptop, tablet, and mobile phone with horizontal and vertical orientation, where you can easily adapt your web application to different screen sizes. Here you have the executioner. Usually executioner shows us successful executions or errors if we have, and this executioner feature refers to the data connection, and I also will talk about it later. Here we have the saving changes indicator. Usually it helps us to indicate if your job was saved or no. For example, let's add some kind of component, let's add a card, and you can see that now this indicator is in gray. It means that changes were saving, it was in the process, and in case you will stop working UI Bakery or lose your connection, and this indicator also was in gray, it means that you will lose your progress. So keep in mind that this indicator should be green all the time. Also, we have here undo, redo buttons to cancel previous action or turn it back. Preview button to check our project in preview mode. Share button to share the project with your colleagues, customers, teammates, friends, and so on. Literally, you can input this link into a browser tab or send it via email, and your colleague will see the project at the current situation, the current project. Basically, this project is also in the share mode right now. You can see that there is some kind of print made in UI Bakery. So this project right now in a view mode as well. In case you don't want to share your project anymore, you can just disable the checkbox. And in case someone wants to refresh the page in order to see the progress, he will see only the error. That's all. The main feature, of course, here is the export code. By clicking on it, you can download not only UI, like pages and components, but also actions and business logic as well. This refers to the data connection. I have the richest plan, which is called Web App Maker. So by clicking on download code, I will receive all this code right into my personal computer. So sometimes it could take up to a minute. It depends on the quantity of pages you have. And if you open this project, basically you'll see that there's usual Angular application. So nothing special here. And the last part of the interface is called the configuration panel. It's placed on the right side of the screen, as you can see. And configurations could be set into variations or options. The first one is general, and the second one is data. In the general settings, usually we work with the settings like direction, alignment, width, height, background color, and so on. Inside of the data settings, we usually work with the name of components, and we can set some actions. And let's have an example right now. So let's start to build our application. And first of all, I will delete here action bar. So to do this, I click on structure button, select the layout, and choose without action bar. That's great. Also, I don't want to have the space from the screen borders. That's why, again, click on structure, find here the spacing, and remove it totally from left, right, and down. That's all. Now I have the simply pure page. Let's add one more container. Usually in your bakery spaces, it's called the same as containers. If you are familiar with HTML, you know that space is something similar like div. So let's use this space. When I have added the space, it's automatically selected by UI Bakery, and here in the at the right side of the screen, inside of the configuration panel, I can change some configurations. I want this space to take the full width. I can use pixels, percentage, or columns. Columns is the principle that is taken from a Bootstrap. I can recommend using columns because it's quite easy to adopt your project after for smaller screen sizes, because 12 columns for desktop is the same 12 columns like for tablet, and the same 12 columns for a mobile phone. That's why it could be quite easier to adopt. Also, I want to change the height of this the height of this space, or to leave it even in auto mode. It would be okay. So what I'm going to do, as we can see from the example here, we have some kind of the menu here, and let's try to reproduce it. If we could separate this part into, for example, 3 parts, we can see that, for example, I have this. We can separate it like this. It would be the first part in UI Bakery. The second part could be like this. And the last part would have only this section with home, department, savings, and so on. So let's do the same. But the trick here is that we have the same background for almost 2 spaces. How to achieve this? Easily. First of all, we need to create one more space inside of created space. Let's do this. By default, it's also 48 pixels, so let's make it full width in columns. Now I want to change the height of the new space to, for example, 70 pixels. Okay, now let's find its parent space. To find parent space, or to find any parent of the component, you can easily click on component, and you can see the hierarchy. Here I can see that this space is laid inside of it, and this space is placed inside of root space. Root space cannot be deleted. Usually it's like something like a body, so there is nothing to know any more about it. So let's go back to the space. I should be okay. Okay, so now in the first space I want to add some components. Let's do this. If we can see from example, we have here some kind of image. So let's add it. Let's click here. This is component picker. Find here image through the search and add it. By default, image is quite too big. So let's change its width and height to, for example, 40 pixels for width and height as well. Let's go to its settings, 40 and 40. Okay. Also, we can align our content inside of the space to the bottom, for example. That's all. Now let's click on our image and upload it. Here's the logo. By default, it has square corners. Let's make it round. Okay, I'll shift it here. Perfect. Now we need to add some more components. Basically, it's some kind of text here, supercard, or a heading. So it's nothing special. We click again on component picker, find here heading component and select it. By default, heading is quite too big. We also can make it more beautiful. Let's change the type of the heading to H5. And then let's use the color for alternate. As you can see, our background color isn't great. That's why we cannot properly see what is written here, but it doesn't matter because we'll solve it quite soon. I'll copy the text from the example and paste it here in order to speed up the process. As you can see, our heading is ticked to the bottom because the space settings tell us that the vertical alignment to the bottom. But I need to have some more space between the border of space and the heading. That's why I click on the heading, find its margin settings, and add here, for example, 8 pixels. Also, to have more space between the image and heading, I can click on image and add, for example, 8 pixels for right side. Let's find our parent space here. And to make it more beautiful, let's add a background color. You can upload it or use URL. Let's go to the Unsplash, for example. Oh, pumpkin. That's great. I love pumpkins, so let's find a pumpkin, the proper one. It should be something like, I don't know. Oh, I like it. So just copy the image address here, go back to a bakery, select the space you want to use the background, select URL, and paste the code snippet here. Also, we need to fit our image. It's better to use cover property, so that's why it would be okay. So let's continue. Here we have a button, so we need just to add it here. Let's click and find the button. By default, button looks like this, so let's make it more beautiful. First of all, we will change the color or the status of the button to control. Then I want to make the appearance of the button to ghost. And now let's just replace text to stores. Here's it. And add icon from the right side of the button. Now we need just to find the proper one. It's like a person or something like this. So let's click on button. open its settings, find here icon, and replace it to a person. Also, not to forget to add space between the heading component and our button. Okay, so let's continue. We have one more image here. So not to waste your time, I'll just use Command C and Command V here. But I will replace my image. I'll delete this one and upload the proper one, mark it. Let's make it 70 pixels width and 70 pixels height. And let's leave it as it is. Now you can see that we have a few more buttons here, like account, help, and card. And you remember that we already created the stores button, and they look dissimilar. So what I'm going to do is just to use Command C again and paste it here. 1, 2, and 3. Now we need just to replace the text to account. I select the proper one, change the text to account. Also, I want to change the icon here, so select the button, go to its settings, and find here the icon. Let's change it to the proper icon. Usually it's some kind of arrow here, arrow down probably. So let's type here arrow and find, oh, chevron down. Okay, beautiful. Let's continue. Here we have only text without icons, so only text. And the text here is help. Okay. I hope everything got getting clear. And we need to work with one more button. This button is called card. We need to change icon here to the left side. I'm sorry, it's not a proper one. Select this. From the left side, we need to select here a card. Shopping cart, okay. And to change the text to cart as well. Okay, now I want to stick these 3 buttons to the right side. Basically, UI Bakery allows you quite general settings for layouts and alignments, like to the left, to the center, to the right side, spread, and so on. We can use spread, or we can just select this button and add here an auto margin from the left side. That would allow us to stick our buttons right to the right side. And in UI Bakery, it's great when you're using and learning some kind of HTML or CSS, because there is a CSS principle working. And also you can see that this color is highlighted. I don't know, could be viewed okay, but it looks like this. Also, we need to stick our image also to the left outer. But because we have already here sticked our button with auto settings and stick our image, it's going to be exactly at the center of the screen. And we finished with the first block. Let's add the new one. So to do this, I click on the space, find its parent space, and inside of this parent space, I'll add heading component. This is heading. Now you can hardly see it because of the color. So let's change it to the alternate. Let's copy the text from the example. Let's replace.
Did we lose Artem?
Add few more components here. This is a link and this is input. So let's go back to the builder, click on the space we want to add our link, use link here. And you can see that the link is placed from the left side of our Goose Community Market heading. To achieve the different direction, you can just select again the space and change its direction. It used to be from the left to the right. Let's do it from the top to the bottom. Okay, and don't forget again to horizontally align our content. Perfect. Now we need just to replace text in a link. I'll copy it from the example. Paste it here. So usually, as you can see, it's simple UI builder. I'm just replacing the components using component picker to add the new ones and replacing the text in order to do the same. Also, we need to make this link bold, and color also should be like alternate, something like this. And don't forget to add space between the heading and the link component. I'll add a margin here. And we need to add one more component that is called input. Let's find it in our component picker. Get an input here and add the space between the link and the input. Something for 8 pixels. Okay, now select the input and change it with let's change the shape of our input to semi-round. Let's provide their tooltip, like search products here. Search products here. Okay, and we need, of course, to add here icon as well. Icon is going to be search, like an example. So find here a search outline, for example. And of course, don't forget to select the success, for example, color. Also, we need some space between our search and the border of the space. You can add some margins, or you can use, for example, paddings for parent space. We can add padding. Where is it? At the top, for example, 16 pixels. That would be quite enough. Okay, almost done. One more block. Let's add one more space. Now we need to select the parent space, add one more, make it, for example, also full width in columns. The height of the space is going to be something like 60 probably pixels, or I believe 60 would be quite enough. So let's do this. Also, we can set a background. We can not only use the images for a background, but also we can use the background from provided by UI Bakery itself. Now we need to add a few links like here. So let's add it. We need to have here a link. You can see that our link is placed inside of the space. And let's add the configurations for our content. I want to place it vertically to the center. And I want to add some paddings from left and right side so that my content would not stick to the borders. That's all. Now let's work with the link. First of all, let's uncheck this property for underline, make our link bold and green, for example. And we need just now to replace the text like home. Okay, I'll just type it by myself. Perfect. Also, we need some space between these links, something about 16 pixels, I believe, or probably 32. Let's check. I'll add here 32 pixels from the right side. And probably that's all. Now I'll just copy my link and paste it here. Once again, use Command C and paste it inside of the space. Now let's change our color of the link to basic. And the text is going to be here like departments. So departments, something like this. Okay, one more copy. Again, paste. Copy, paste. And here we need to change the text to savings. Okay. Few more links. One more link. It's even it looks like it is even a text. So we can add a text component or use again. Let's click here, find text, make it, for example, bold, and type here deliver to. Okay. Add some space between the components and add one more component here. It's also input with a placeholder. So click on plus, find here input, and let's change our Grote placeholder. Find it here. Okay. And few steps. We need just to have one more text within 2 hours. So I'll copy again this text, paste it here. I'll add space between the input and the text, and type here within 2 hours. Okay, now use again this trick. We need to separate our links from one to another. So that's why I select this deliver text, find its general settings, find its margin, and from the left side, I will do auto margin. Perfect. Okay, almost last step. One more space. Make it full width. Set some paddings from the left and right side from the beginning. Usually I use tab to switch between the paddings. Now we can see that we have a card component here. So let's add a card. Also, let's add to the space place from the top. And that's all. Remove header and footer. Add space to place component, some components. Also make it full width. Duplicate it by clicking this gray plus. Okay, we have only 6 minutes, so the most interesting part, connecting the data. Let's do this. Let's add a space. I want to make this space 2 column widths. Inside of the space, there would be some components like image. It should be for 135 pixels. A button. The button is going to be in a green color. And the appearance of the button is also should be like ghost and only icon. And we need to add some components here. That's why okay. Usually the hosting works easily. You can just click here on deploy And when you click on deploy, there is a possibility to deploy your project to the dev environment and to the custom environment, I believe. But we're almost finishing here. Now let's receive the data. I already prepared this URL for you. Let's go to the data connection, create a new action here. The action is going to be the HTTP request. We're going and receiving the data from this URL. Basically, URL contains the object with an arrays. Now we are receiving it, and we need to save it right into UI Bakery. So let's use save data to app state step, add a variable, set a name for a variable like, I don't know, produces. Type of the variable is going to be an array, and let's save it. Now let's go back and set the action. For example, let's name it like load data. There is something in the chat. Okay, thank you also. We're almost leaving. We need just to use here the sequence variable in order to get all the results from the API. So set here produces, and inside of the image we need just to use the item.image here. And not to forget to set an action on initialization. By the way, thank you for joining us. So let's click on preview. I've managed to get the data from the API. It's a pity that we have not enough time for the questions, but basically, with the help of the sequence feature, we can receive all the data from the API. So what time do we have? A few minutes?
Yeah, if you guys have a few minutes to run over, it would be great to just open it up for a few questions from people here, if you can.
Sure.
Great. Yeah, if anyone has got any questions, and apologies for sort of running slightly over, but yeah, if anyone's got any questions, please just raise your hand on Zoom, or yeah, just pop the message in the chat, and I'll chuck it over to Artem.
Okay, I can check the chat. So probably where is it? I lose it. Here's the chat. Okay.
I can see some questions in the chat. The first one is, when will the integrations be available, and how does the hosting of an app work? So I can cover these. As for when anything will be available, we actually have a public roadmap, which is available at roadmap.uibakery.io. And this roadmap is built using UI Bakery as well. And as we can see right there, the integrations with most popular backends, Firebase, Airtable, and Google Sheets, are currently scheduled to be released in January. And the second question was, how does the hosting of an app work? So yeah, that's a great question, because we did implement the hosting feature, but right now it's temporarily disabled. So yeah, Artem has it in his environment, but if you sign up for an application, you probably won't have it today. We disabled it for some technical issues, so it's going to be back soon. Once that feature is available, all you have to deploy is literally a click of a button. You would need, though, to purchase a separate hosting plan from us. The cost will depend on the number of users you expect and the number of data you have. But after that, you just click one button and your application is deployed. While this feature is temporarily disabled, you have another way of hosting your application. As we mentioned several times, you can download your Angular code, and after that, you just host it as any other Angular application. So you can literally use any hosting for that. It's not really a hosting even, it's more like a content delivery that you need. So it could be any web server. So I hope I answered the first two questions.
Yeah, that's great. I think, yeah, there's a chunkier question in the chat, so feel free to take your time reading through that. But in the meantime, if anyone has any questions, just feel free to come off mute.
Okay, I can see a question from Dara. Did he leave? Yeah, looks like. Okay, the question is pretty long. It says that he's working on the project and looking at a mix of sources available via APIs. It's a mix of government data, private yet publicly available data from Google Maps, API and Experian, or private proprietary data from a client. Are there any general thoughts on best tips and tricks when looking at UI Bakery for this use case when the Power API integration is paramount? So to be honest, I don't really see any issues with that. So as Artyom has demonstrated us, you can create multiple actions to work with the API. So absolutely, you can get your data from different sources for the same application. You just set up different HTTP endpoints to get your data from. And the UI Bakery does support authentication. So you can absolutely get data from some API which require authentication, and it could be different credentials for different endpoints. So it's all available out of the box.
Great. I see, Eddie, you're still on the call. Feel free to come off mute if you have a question. But I know sometimes you're in the car or taking your kids somewhere, so don't worry if not.
Yeah, no, that's the normal MO. Yeah, normally the sort of stack that people use is Webflow with then Bubble and Airtable, kind of, and then integrating it with Zapier or something. Do you see the UI Bakery in its fullness of time replacing all of those, or do you think it'll be a Webflow then onto a, replacing Bubble and Airtable?
We don't consider Webflow to be our competitor, and actually we are using Webflow ourselves for more static things, like the websites, which just contain a set of static pages, or maybe some basic dynamic content like blog posts based on some CMS. So for that purpose, Webflow works great, but we believe Webflow misses the features required for enterprise applications, like working with data. So getting data from the API, transforming it, getting data from the user and sending it back to the API. So that's what Webflow is missing, we believe, and that's the niche which we are aiming to fill. So we actually sometimes refer to UI Bakery as Webflow for applications. So we don't think it will replace Webflow, but it will create an alternative, a counterpart for Webflow in the field of web applications. As for Bubble, yes, we do consider them to be our competitors. We believe that we provide a better UI capabilities. So with Bubble, you can come across some limitations. And if you're looking to create a beautifully looking applications, or if you need to create an application that matches your corporate styles and guidelines, it might be difficult to do with Bubble. It's much easier to do with UI Bakery thanks to our customizable design system. And the third you mentioned, I believe, was Airtable, right?
Yeah, that's right. Airtable and then possibly Zapier or Integromat or something to actually get the data transformed into your system.
Got it. So those, I don't think they're our competitors, but they could be efficiently used in conjunction with UI Bakery. So Airtable is a great data source. so it can act as a database for some sample simple applications. And we do support it right now through API, and we'll integrate even closer soon. So you won't even have to know anything about the API. You can create and manage your data in Airtable, but use UI Bakery to provide the user interface for your clients, for your users to work with that data. So we think it's a great integration. As for Zapier and Integromat, again, they do not really provide a user interface. They provide a great way of integrating different services and flowing the data from one service to another, or maybe setting up some triggers that do some things when something happens. And that can be a great tool to use together with UI Bakery. So for example, you can create a beautiful interface in UI Bakery, and there could be a button somewhere, and when you click that button, something has to happen. Maybe a marketing campaign should launch and some emails should be sent to a list of users that was connected earlier from some other source. And that's where Zapier or Integromat would be a great tool. So from UI Bakery, you just make a single API call to the Zapier to initiate some sequence, and then Zapier or Integromat does all the rest.
Okay, so it's not replacing, it's not logic necessarily within UI Bakery. You're looking to have that logic external.
Yes. You can do some basic logic with UI Bakery, but that would be the logic that's executed on the front end in the user browser. If you need some complicated logic to be executed on the server and maybe call in many different services and directing some flows of data. Yeah.
Okay. And then in terms of the sort of learning curve, I see some of the user interface looks similar to Webflow's. Are you trying to keep it along that sort of feeling, look and feel of the Webflow kind of interface? And then just another comment then on how you see the learning curve between UI Bakery and then Bubble would be great as well. Thanks.
Well, as I mentioned, out of all the tools that you enumerated, Bubble is probably the only one which we do consider to be a competitor. And of course, we hope that we'll make UI Bakery easier to use. And yes, you're right. We sometimes use Webflow as a kind of source of inspiration. We believe that they have a great user interface, so we are following along the same principles. So hopefully UI Bakery will be easier to use than Bubble. That's one of our goals.
Yeah, I've not started using UI Bakery. I've seen that quite a few times on Twitter, people mentioning it to use. The design side of things is quite difficult I do mostly integrations. I'm an accountant at the background, so yeah, the design stuff's not the key driver. On your templates, I know you've got some templated apps, but are you looking into doing any design resources as well or maybe third-party associations where you can get the templates started for the design side?
So you mean having templates not so much for different kinds of application, different functionality, but more from the visual perspective to be able
That's right,
to
yeah,
have
like
more themes.
Figma to, instead of having to, well, yeah, you had that Figma to Webflow kind of circle where people can do one thing to the next. Is that similar idea within UI Bakery as well?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you think it's going to be getting a design or getting your marketing person to come in and style it within the apps is more the road you're going down?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that right now we're more going down the road where, well, to eliminate the coder so that a designer can create a web application in UI Bakery. We probably don't have so many assets for designers or to avoid involving a designer right now, but that's definitely a great thing to think about. So thank you. And yes, we did receive quite a lot of requests to enable like export from Figma or Sketch. It's not easy to do because of the design system that is behind UI Bakery, and it's controlling that everything is consistent. So it's not clear for us yet how to make it work with just an arbitrary design from Figma, how to make sure it matches our design system when you export it. So that's probably like a second priority for us right now.
Yeah, that's great. It's good to see. It's worth a play with to see how the app actually performs. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Eddie.
Cheers, Eddie. Great questions as always. I think we'll leave it there. Just seen in the chat. There are complex data connection option and poor responsive design from users say about Bubble, but UI Bakery has easy to use data connection feature and a possibility to make and get responsive design in a few clicks. That's just from the UI Bakery team. So yeah, I think we'll thanks for that. We'll leave it there, but that was really great, really useful. Before I wrap up, is there anything the UI Bakery team you'd like to say? I'm aware there's not many people on the call right now, but on the recording, I'm sure lots more people will be watching it. So is there any last words you'd like to say?
I would probably say that right now we are still in the beginning of our road. So we put a lot of effort and a lot of interest into our users. So I encourage everyone to go to our website and sign up, and you'll be guaranteed to receive personal attention. You'll most likely get a call with us, and then we can get you an individual training. So we are really interested in your opinion, your feedback. So please come and share that with us.
Amazing. That sounds great, and I'm sure lots of people will take you up on that. So yeah, all I've got to say is thanks so much everyone for your time. It's been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to getting stuck into the platform. But have amazing weeks everyone, and I'm sure I'll see you all on Twitter somewhere. Thanks guys.
Thank you.
Cheers
Thank
everyone.
you, Max.
Thank you, Max. Thank you.
Bye.